why would you need to impose a certain discipline in an organization? It's for the greater good of the organization. Okay, like the banks of the river, they are not opposed to the river. That are the banks of the river give definition to the river, right? So they are
Right.
not disciplining the river. They are actually giving the river the existence of what it is, right?
So, hello everyone. I hope that you all have watched the other two episodes, which are for To Be Honest Talks. And here we are another with another episode with Mr. Dhaval Thanki, currently the VP of APAC and MEA for LogiNext, which again, it's a very big company. So how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. Good to be here on this podcast, Aman. Thanks for having me.
Right, sir. So just to tell everyone, this podcast, it has been delayed for more than, I guess, a month. And finally, we are here with Mr. Dhaval. So I believe we'll have a wonderful time ahead. And to all of those who want to know about Mr. Dhaval, I'll attach the LinkedIn link. You can just go and follow, sir. He posts great things over there. Make sure to follow him. So we'll move on with the first question, sir, which I guess the audience would be really excited about. That what's your story, sir? How all it started?
All right, it's a long story, I guess. Everyone has their own journey and their own learnings and their own approach to doing things. So I'm gonna just give you a very high level, quick version of it, right?
Right, sir.
So yeah, I've always been very passionate about technology, about problem solving, about wanting to do things that make an impact, right? And that's where I started off doing my engineering, and then went on to do an MBA because I realized that understanding technology and also understanding the business use cases where technology can add value, both of them are necessary. So that's where transitioned to a MBA, and then after that went on to do multiple things in the journey, including working with some of the greatest companies in the tech and data space. And when I say greatest, I basically mean companies that are really passionate about what they do, companies that believe in the power of technology and data to create an impact. And in that journey, I really picked up some very essential skills and experiences, which allowed me to start off on my own. So I actually did manage to, pull off an entrepreneurial journey for about 10 years, where I set up a digital marketing company that used to help brands like Tata Sky, Florence and Mayo, Saragama, ICICI Securities, and so on with their digital endeavors. And while we were doing that, we also realized the potential for building digital products, and we were extremely passionate about building products of our own that could help people use technology in many interesting ways. So I did end up venturing onto the product side of things, where I built, along with another friend and a co-founder of mine, I ended up building GapMob, which was a pretty popular platform back then on helping smaller businesses take advantage of the mobile app technology, where they could come in on GapMob, build their own app, run their own app on GapMob without having to worry about the technology costs or the hosting or the management or the cloud side of it. So they need not really be very tech literate or tech savvy or tech oriented. As long as they understand the power of technology in helping them solve their problems, they could get on GapMob and get going, and we take care of everything else. We do the heavy lifting for them. So it was a pretty interesting journey there. We did end up working with a few great brands and a few great people who were able to really take advantage of that platform. And then moving on from there, I did end up joining Cartesian Consulting, which is a great data analytics, global data analytics consulting firm, and I worked with them on the consulting side and also helped them build a pretty solid product in the AI space, which is basically for driving hyper personalization at scale. So that was another interesting aspect of my journey there. And from Cartesian, I moved on to LogiNext, which is where I am right now, which is a pretty amazing role and a pretty amazing organization in terms of the kind of problems that we're trying to solve, right? So LogiNext is essentially a logistics automation platform. It's a SaaS platform. It's a product, right, which companies across the globe are currently using to solve their logistics use cases, right? And it's a great experience. It's a great ride. A lot of amazing people. I get to work with them every day, and we've been able to really bring a strong proposition to the market, and we're on our way to scaling it to levels we wouldn't have imagined earlier. So it's quite amazing, the whole journey, and what I get to do. I think it's a great ride that I've had, and the ride that I am currently on. So that's really a quick peek into what my journey has been so far.
Fantastic, sir. Sir, I mean, you have been in the industry for, I guess, past 18, 19 years, right? It has been a long time, right? So, I mean, in this duration of your, of your career, how your priorities have changed? I mean, has it changed drastically, or I mean, it would have, of course, because it's a huge period that you have been in this industry, right? So how have your priorities changed?
Right. So I've been around for about close to 18 years now, as you said. I mean, I look good for my age, but I do end up, coming with a pretty long and interesting journey so far. And I just feel like I'm just getting started, right? Every day is a new day, and you look forward to moving the needle on passion, on value creation, on doing some great work, right? So there are certain things that have evolved in terms of the way my priorities have stacked up, and there are certain things that have remained the same. Okay, and certain things that have remained the same all through the years is my passion to do great work. It's my passion to do stuff that I enjoy doing, and that's really my number one driver. Okay, and I think that's something that has stayed consistent since the day I got on this whole journey, and it remains consistent even today. So that's really how I look at it. Also, the value system that I operate with. I'm a very people-centric person. I really feel that the real potential of any organization is in its people. Technology is parity. Anybody can build technology today. It's probably the most democratic world out there, right? But what really matters is the people that build the technology, is the people that build the business, is the people that work with the customers, right? And it's the people that eventually make everything happen. So I really feel, working with great people and, adding value to their lives and helping, build teams and scale teams that can create win-win scenarios for people, for technology, for customers, for the business is what I am really passionate about. And I think my priorities from that standpoint, if I have to just kind of, retrospect and see how it has changed, I still feel some of the fundamentals have really not changed, right? This whole people-centric approach, this whole win-win kind of value system, this whole doing things that I'm passionate about, I think this still stays the same. And that's what has kept me ahead of the curve in terms of always being in that space, which is the space where the maximum disruption is happening right now. So when in 2008, 2012, it was the digital era, the kicking off of the digital era, and things were really, beginning to grow in the digital space. And at that point in time, I was in the digital space. And then, you had the age of AI and machine learning that started coming in. And that's where I was in that AI, machine learning, analytics space, in the next few years. And now is the age of disruption through SaaS products, because I think, you see SaaS everywhere. You see how SaaS products are actually, making a deep impact in every aspect of business. And so that's where I am, in the SaaS world, trying to, disrupt or create new value using our SaaS platform. So I think that's been my key focus area. I always wanted to operate in that area of business, which is the growing trajectory, which is a trajectory which is in its springs, right? Which is where I get to do the best of the best there is. So that's something that I've always focused on, and that's, again, as a way of looking at it, that's remained consistent. But the space that I've been in has evolved, right from the pure digital space all the way up to the whole SaaS space, right? And in terms of priority, I think I focus now a lot more on building teams, on building people capabilities, on building processes and structures that help people do their best work. Okay, as opposed to earlier on, where I was more focused on me jumping into doing everything, right? Where once you're passionate about doing what you do, you always have the tendency to jump at everything that's out there, right? And then try to do it yourself. But I think this is how I think I've matured over the years, where I've realized the importance of helping build teams and scale teams that can help solve the problem as a part of the process, or as a part of the structure, or as a part of the organization, rather than me having to really dive at everything. So I think that's how I would say, I don't know if I've accurately answered your question, but I think that's how I look at how things have changed and how things have not changed over the years for me.
Right, sir. It is VP of Asia Pacific and Middle East Asia, right, sir? So
Middle East and Africa, yeah.
Okay, Middle East Africa, sorry. So what is the specific department, if I ask, or what is the specific thing that you handle in LogiNext?
All right. So essentially, LogiNext, as I said, is a logistics automation company, right?
Right.
So it's a platform. It's a SaaS platform. And when you say VP of APAC and MEA, I'm basically responsible for all our existing clients in this region, right?
Right, sir.
All our existing clients in this region, everything that needs to be done to help them succeed, right? From strategy, helping them understand the platform better, helping them get more value from our platform, helping with their success. Okay, at a 30,000 feet level, that's essentially what my role is. My role is to help our clients succeed on our platform, and our clients across APAC and Middle East and Africa regions, right? And so there are multiple aspects of it. You have to help them succeed from an operational perspective. You have to help them succeed from a support perspective. You have to help them succeed from a product perspective. You have to help them succeed from a revenue perspective. And all of these are different flavors that eventually I'm responsible for in terms of driving customer successes for all our customers in this region, and in the process helping the organization grow in terms of revenue, in terms of use cases, in terms of the quality of work that we do, and so on.
Right. So there must be a key point where I'll say there must be a moment whenever you have started your career. So there have been a moment which has been most enjoyed by you. Is there any such moment which you'd like to share with everyone over here?
I actually, I don't see things that way. I really feel every day is a new day, and every day is an opportunity to create impact. So yeah, of course, there have been lots of moments that way if I look back, but the way I see it, it's really not about those 1, 2, 3 moments. It's about living every day to the fullest. It's about bringing your best self into whatever it is that you do every day, and which is why I don't dwell too much into the past in terms of reminiscing what was what, because you've had good days, you've had bad days, we've all had good days, bad days, great things have happened, bad things have happened. That's how the journeys are for everyone, right? In some
with highs and lows, right?
Yeah, all of that. So while I would have cherished the moment when it would have happened in the past, I wouldn't want to really, like I said, reminisce too much about it. I would always want to look forward and sort of look at every new day as a new opportunity to do new things and to do greater things. So I'd say every day is a new day and is an opportunity to cherish in itself. And that's how I would want to look at it, rather than calling out a specific event in the past. Yeah.
Right. Being in the industry for this longer period of time, you would have met so many individuals, right? With different capabilities, mindsets, right? So is there something specific that you have I'll say looked upon, or I'll say, is there something specific that you observe in people and that you want people to either start doing or stop doing? Because just to help people who want to start their career in this industry. So is there anything that you want people that they should start doing or stop doing it?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question. And you're right. Over the course of my journey, I've met people of all kinds all across the planet in a variety of scenarios and situations, right? And because my role has always been people facing largely. Even as an entrepreneur, I was always on the business side of things. While I love technology, I understand technology, and I feel greatly passionate about technology. My role always has been about dealing with people. So I've kind of met quite a few people, ranging from the best of the best to the worst of the worst in a variety of contexts, right? With due respect to everyone. But yeah, one thing that I really like in people is, again, passion for what they do. Okay.
Right.
If you meet someone and you see that they are really passionate about what they're doing, and they could be anybody, really. I mean, they need not necessarily be the CEO of a billion-dollar organization. They could be anybody in any capacity, role, shape, or form. I really like that in people. I really like that aspect of people when they are extremely passionate and driven by whatever it is that they're doing, right? And that's something that I really appreciate. What I don't like in people, and what I think people could change, is I don't like people who complain too much. Okay, oh, this isn't right. Oh, that could have been that way. Nothing in the world is perfect.
Right.
You're never going to be in a situation where everything is the way you want it to be. And that's the beauty of it, right? I mean, you have to be extremely solution oriented. And that's where it, segues well into my earlier point, where I actually like people to be passionate and driven by what they do. Because when you're passionate, you're able to find solutions, and you become unstoppable in some sense, which is why people should never do something that they're not passionate about. Life is too short to do
Right.
something that you're not passionate about. You have to, either you pick what you think you can be great at and passionate about, or you find a way to be passionate about whatever it is that you do. These are the only two ways. There is no third way, right? I mean, you have read the book Ikigai, right? I mean, that's the ideal sweet spot. The book Ikigai really brings out this concept in a beautifully structured manner, right? It basically says you got to operate at the intersection of four things. The first thing is, um, do what the world needs right now. Second thing is, do what you enjoy doing. Third thing is, do what pays you, right? And the fourth thing is, do what you are great at doing, right? Sometimes what you enjoy doing may not necessarily be what you're great at, right? So
Right.
it's really the subtle difference between these two. So if you are at that magical intersection of these four things, you're operating at your optimal position in some sense. But the larger point, as I said, is really about and what I want to change, if I can, in people, is to move them from that mindset of complaining or not enjoying what they do, or being in a suboptimal state of existence in whatever shape and form. I would want to change that for them, to move them to an optimal state of existence, which is really about being passionate, enjoying what you do. You could be an entrepreneur, you could be a professional, you could be a small business owner, you could be anything. You could be a freelancer, you could be a student, you could be anything, but you really have to find a way to enjoy what you do, and you really need to be passionate about what you do, because that's the only way you can do full justice to your potential and to the people that you impact in your daily lives. So that's how I would want to put it.
Right. So perfectly, I'll say that has been put up to the question. So moving on to the next question. So do you believe, sir, that there is any common perception about your industry which needs to be changed amongst the youth or the people who are trying to get into this industry? So do you think is there any common perception or a misconception about your industry?
Well, honestly, no. I think people look up to SaaS and tech businesses, because that's the most happening space. So, as like I said, I've always been lucky, or consciously, I've tried to be in that space. That's the hottest space at that point in time, which is why you get to work on the greatest, the latest, and the greatest stuff, right? And also get to create the most profound impact on industries and customers that you work with. So I think the SaaS world, the SaaS industry, the SaaS part of the overall ecosystem is a very sought after space. Everyone looks up to it. So I think we get to do some of the coolest stuff, and people look up to these companies because these are the coolest companies doing some cutting edge stuff. So I think that perception is a pretty valid perception and the right perception, which obviously I wouldn't want to change. But just if you want to see, maybe just try to play the devil's advocate and look at logistics tech, for example, right? And logistics has been a little late to the whole SaaS and the tech party. You look at fintech, you look at ed tech, you look at delivery tech. You look at many other delivery tech, well, is a little bit into the logistics tech space, but I think logistics in general as an industry has been a little late to the party. So I think that's a growing area, and good for us because we're at the right place at the right time, disrupting an industry that was ripe for disruption, right? So people might feel that, it may be very difficult to bring technology into the complex world of logistics, right? But that's really the beauty of it, because logistics is hard, right? It's probably the most complicated part of any business operation, right? Because that's where the heavy lifting is happening, right? You have an e-commerce website, you put together a website, you put the products on the website, people can buy the stuff that you're putting up. Those are all the nice things of the business, but to get the product delivered, get the product picked up from the right place and get the product delivered to the customer, that's the toughest link in the chain. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's where the maximum heavy lifting happens, right? Because anybody can build a website. Anybody can do marketing to attract customers to the website. Anybody can set up the right product mix. Those are low entry barrier scenarios, but anybody can't manage the complex logistics that goes behind running a business like that, which is why you hear about these things like 10-minute deliveries, 30-minute deliveries, same-day deliveries. Those are the growing, more popular business models that we hear about, because those are really hard. That's really, really hard. It's not easy to, pull off logistics in any business. And that's something, and again, in some sense, that perception about logistics being the toughest thing is in a way a very valid perception. But when you blend it with technology, when you blend it with data, when you blend it with expertise across different use cases, you create this magical SaaS platform, which is a logistics automation platform that we've managed to create, right? And that's where we become the cool part of the logistics industry, where we're revolutionizing logistics by bringing the cool things like technology, data, and new ideas in managing deliveries. And that's in some way helping build that perception about seeing logistics in a very different way, especially when you see it from a SaaS lens or when you see it from a tech lens, right? And that's a perception that I think we're evangelizing knowingly or unknowingly for people outside who follow us or who read about us or who try to find more information about us. And I think that's one perception that we're proud of revolutionizing in whatever little way that we're managing to do that. Yeah.
So you did mention one point, which is that there has been new business model adaptations in terms of delivery. Let's suppose you mentioned a 10-minute delivery, 20-minute delivery, right? So just to ask one question to you, sir. I mean, in the past few months, I wouldn't like to take the name of the company, but there's this company which actually introduced the system of 10 minutes delivery, right? It was in the sector of, I guess, groceries, foods, and whatnot, right? So the delivery would be at your door in 10 minutes. And it faced a severe backlash by the people of the country, right? So do you think, sir, that logically, is it possible or not? And second question is that, is it the right thing to do or not? Since the people who do delivery are also a part of, let's suppose they're also a stakeholder of a company, right? So do you think that, forcing them to complete the delivery in just 10 minutes, is it like the right thing or not?
Oh, well, again, that's a good question. Yes, I think, the way I would look at this is what really matters is the end consumer experience. How can you deliver great customer experience, and how can you deliver great customer experience profitably, right? How can you build a business model around it so that it makes your customers happy and the process of making the customers happy is profitable for you? And just for the sake of differentiation or just for the sake of doing something differently, you wouldn't want to focus on solving the wrong problem. That's another important thing, right? You have to focus your energy and resources on solving the right problem instead of solving the wrong problem just for the sake of being different. Now, I wouldn't know about other companies that are getting into this whole 10-minute delivery or 30-minute delivery space, but being in the industry and also powering some of the biggest and the greatest brands in APAC and in the Middle East in terms of helping them do things like same-day delivery. We've got retail chains as our customers. We've got e-commerce companies as our customers, grocery retail, e-commerce, you name it. And most of these companies are extremely customer centric. They would really want to, do the best there is for their customers. But at the same time, they're highly responsible companies as well. They wouldn't want to risk their folks, or wouldn't want to risk the delivery people in terms of putting unnecessary pressure on them to deliver things on time and so on. So they would want to balance the two. While they want to deliver great customer experience, they want to also do it profitably and in a manner that all their stakeholder interests are protected, including their employees and delivery folks. And that's where technology and ecosystem support comes into play. Like, how can you automate almost everything that is required in your delivery process? How can you bring in technology? How can you digitize your delivery process? How can you take advantage of the entire delivery ecosystem, right? You've got warehouses, dark stores, cloud kitchens. There are multiple infrastructure elements in the whole ecosystem. How do you stand on the shoulders of giants so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you sort of take the story forward, or you're able to see further? And that's where understanding the ecosystem, collaborating with the ecosystem, and using the right technology and data to be able to solve this quick commerce, as we call it, right? 10-minute delivery, half an hour delivery, whatever. How do you use ecosystem? How do you collaborate with the right partners? How do you use data and technology to solve the quick commerce problem is what needs to be focused on. And that's what we do as a platform as well. This is what we help our customers achieve, right? So that you're able to achieve these aggressive SLAs, as you call them, right? In whatever 30-minute delivery, 10-minute delivery, without risking any of your stakeholders and without really hurting your profitability in the process. But it's easier said than done. Like I said, it involves a lot of vision, clarity, effort, understanding technology, data, etc., etc. But just to conclude that point, right? If you are not doing a great job of using these things that I spoke about, using the ecosystem, using the right technology, automating all your delivery processes, and so on, then you will have a sub-optimized delivery process. And if the delivery process is sub-optimized and you're still trying to chase unrealistic SLAs, you will end up putting pressure on your delivery people, which is absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. So it's I think it's about optimizing within constraints. And I would say the safety, security, and the well-being of the delivery folks is an absolutely necessary given as a constraint to take into consideration while focusing on optimizing your logistics operations. And you can do that. You can do a win-win, provided you get the different elements that I spoke about in the mix, in the right proportions, in the right way, and then learn from it and then evolve and move forward. So that's how I would want to really look at it.
Perfectly answered, sir. I believe that, by optimizing the time that they're providing in delivery, they should also focus on the well-being of the delivery folks as well. Because even in the past 1 year, I'll say there has been a lot of cases where, these delivery folks, they have complained, they have stated the issues of being mistreated into such companies. So I think there must be some specific, I'll say, precautions that should be taken necessarily in this delivery tech space. Sir, I believe that in the past 1 or 2 years, I'll say, specifically the era of COVID, I'll say. So there has been, I'll say, addition of names into the list of unicorns, specifically from India, right, sir? So what are your comments, or I'll say, what are your views on this emerging sector of entrepreneurship in India?
Oh, first of all, entrepreneurship is great, right? I'm a big fan of entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur. I still think and operate like an entrepreneur. And LogiNext is a great organization that fosters, this kind of a mindset, right? So super proud to be a part of the India story. I've always been extremely bullish and long on India, which is why when most folks chose to, after engineering, you do your GRE and you move on to the US. With due respect to everyone, because everyone takes their decisions based on what's right for them. I've been one of the biggest proponents of the India growth story. I've always felt that India is really at a position where, we can really, take things to the next level by building great businesses, by creating growth engines that move the country forward, as well as move the people forward, right? So it's absolutely heartening to see all the entrepreneurial activity going around, and great, it's a source of inspiration and motivation for everyone, where you inspire more people to do things on their own. And today probably is the best time to be an entrepreneur, right? Because what does it take really? Think about it. Anything that you want to do, any idea that you want to bring to life, okay, any product you want to create, any service you want to create, today all you need to become an entrepreneur is just a mobile phone, a laptop, and an internet connection. It's as simple as that,
Right.
right? The entry barriers to almost any business are non-existent, okay, because technology is extremely democratic, available to everyone, right? So it's really about, again, ties back nicely to the earlier point I'd made about passion, right? If you're passionate about something, you should just go ahead and do it. And today the ecosystem and the world and the market at large is so open and so ripe for fostering or nurturing any new ideas or any new concepts that people are passionate about. Any problem that you're passionate about solving, you should just commit yourself to it and get on with it. A worst case scenario, you'll not quote unquote succeed, in the eyes of the society in terms of making a commercial impact, but
Right.
you'll end up learning so much. You'll build mad skills, you'll build great capabilities which can help you in your journey, uh, in whatever journey you choose to get onto after that. So I think I'm extremely bullish about the whole entrepreneurial culture and the spirit of entrepreneurship and how it's growing and being encouraged in the country. And yeah, super happy and excited to be a part of it, and looking forward to much more amazing things that will happen down the road with this entrepreneurial journey that we're on as a country and as companies and as people. Yeah.
Right, sir. I believe, in my opinion as well, that you never fail in entrepreneurship. You'll
Yeah.
succeed in either of the any of the things, maybe learning, maybe growing, anything. Right, sir.
Exactly. Yeah.
So are you into the scene of investing and mentoring as well?
Well, not into investing actively as yet, but into mentoring, sure, because I do, people do end up reaching out to me through LinkedIn and various other sources with some ideas where they want my inputs on, or, I do end up speaking to people. Sometimes somebody wants to meet, just catch up with them at a cafeteria, listen to their idea, give my inputs and ideas around, how they could probably improve it or work around building a MVP, a minimum viable product, and so on. So I'm because it's something that I'm, like I said, I'm passionate about. So and like people with ideas and passion and the fire to do great things. So wherever whenever possible, when I have the time, I do end up, doing my bit in helping people with their ideas and their concepts by and it's all pro bono. I mean, I'm not an investor or a mentor in the sense of the mentor, but I do my bit in terms of helping people with whatever experience and expertise I have to help them get more clarity and more passion around whatever area that they are trying to solve for. So that way, yes. And in my quest as a as an entrepreneur or as a professional, because of uh, stuff that I keep talking about on LinkedIn, or I speak at various MBA schools across the country, at IIMs and also at engineering schools and business
Right.
schools, etc. I do get to interact with a lot of these people, and that way, it just gives me an opportunity to help contribute to the mindsets of these folks, which are really bright folks, right? I mean, if I can value add into their journeys by sharing my experiences or my approaches, and help them get more clarity on what journey they want to get on, it just adds to my overall mindset of fueling entrepreneurship, fueling ideas in whatever little way I can. So that's how I would want to put it.
Right, sir. I believe, sir, I mean, I'm not sure that you would have read this article, Aman. So there's this Y Combinator, which is again a very famous accelerator and incubator, I guess. And they posted an article, I guess it was a couple of months ago. And that article was specifically all about that the year of 2022 and 2023 could be an cold era in terms of investment into startups. So what they actually mean over there was that maybe most of the startups, they would end up getting no investment from any of the investors. be for n number of reasons. And specifically, they stated was that the returns on the early investments from different startups, it's not that good. So maybe the investors, they would hesitate in investing in any sort of startups, right? So after that, I guess many of the people in this industry, they came forward. They also said and mentioned all of these things. So do you think that there is any I'll say truth to this article?
I haven't read that article, so I wouldn't really want to, comment on it in that capacity. But to the larger point, right, about investing, and it's about, the value a startup is creating and all of that. My personal view on that is, you shouldn't worry about things like valuation and, the whole financial side of it in the beginning of your journey. You may be a small startup, etc. You focus on solving the problem. You focus on solving the problem well. Of course, you got to understand the larger construct of what is the economic impact of what you're trying to do. Nothing to take away from that. But once you know that you're in the right market and you identified that product market fit, and you know that if you're able to get your product or your solution right, everything else will take care of itself, right? And I think that's the mindset every entrepreneur should have, and that's the mindset every investor should look for, right? If you really find entrepreneurs who are passionate about doing what they're doing and have the capabilities to do what they're doing, right, then all you need to do is back them to create that value. Now, different investors have different philosophies, and the different
Right.
incubators have different philosophies. There are certain sectors they are focused on. There are certain types of skill sets they are looking at investing in. There are certain types of ideas that they are focused on investing in, and so on. So to each their own in terms of what they see as their what you can call as investment strategy, right? But from my perspective, I would say it's really about as an entrepreneur, you shouldn't worry too much about the financials. You focus on what you're doing. You do a really good job of solving the problem you're trying to solve, and everything else takes care of itself. That's how I want to look at it, rather than worrying too much about financials. Because, like I said, as long as you're in the right market, which has potential, you largely know the economic potential of the idea that you're working on. So you know that you're in the right spot. All you need to do is just execute really well, and everything else will fall into place. And that's how I would want to look at it.
Right, sir. So I mean, if you would have watched this show, I guess Shark Tank, which is, I guess, a very pretty famous show, and it started in India as well a couple of months back, right? So I mean, there was a lot of excitement, I guess, for Shark Tank when it started, for the Indian series specifically. It was packed with entertainment, drama, and I guess a lot of wonderful startup ideas as well. And I would like to really say that it would have, I guess, fueled a lot of families, in maybe promoting entrepreneurship, maybe among the children and all, right? So, but do you really think, sir, that this would be for a longer impact in terms of entrepreneurship in India? Do you think it will create a longer impact to promote entrepreneurship in maybe all of the houses, maybe in neighborhoods, right? So do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I think my perspective on it, unfortunately, I haven't seen any of the episodes of the Shark Tank India version, because I really don't get the time to do that, because my other areas of interest, like football, and you can make out from the jersey
Right.
that I'm wearing. So,
Right.
all of that, right? So having said that, but of course I know about it, and I know from data perspective, I've heard good things about about the show and how it's been received and so on. I think one great thing it has done, from what I've read and understood, is it has made this whole it has demystified in some sense this whole world of entrepreneurship, and it has made it more accessible from an evangelizing standpoint, right? When you have something on national television, you're cutting across demographics, psychographics, you're reaching the smallest of the small parts of the country, and you've basically played a great role in evangelizing the whole spirit of entrepreneurship. Today, because of the show, I hear and what I read about, even parents in the house are talking about things like customer acquisition cost and return on investment and all of that, which obviously, like I said, it evangelizes the spirit of entrepreneurship all across, which definitely allows people to open up their minds, which definitely allows families to open up their mindsets around letting their children take on the path of entrepreneurship, because usually there is a lot of social dimension around it, because when you have a great job, when you choose to move out of that job and then do something of your own, usually your friends and family are going to be a little apprehensive, saying, hey, why do you want to leave said job? You're going to do something that's so risky, you don't know whether it's going to work, not work, so on. But once you've been able, you may be convinced, but people around you, out of that genuine care and concern, may not really be as convinced as you are. But then shows like these and celebrating the entrepreneurial spirit and setting the narrative right on entrepreneurship definitely helps evangelize the concept, definitely helps getting more acceptance across different stratas and segments of the society. And I think it largely helps us as a country to again nurture the entrepreneurial spirit. But while I say that, I want to put in one quick caveat. It's very easy to get carried away by entrepreneurship. But it's very cool to be an entrepreneur. It's very cool to be running a business, and you should definitely not do it for the coolness part of it. You shouldn't do it for the cool quotient part of it. You cannot be a successful entrepreneur if you're doing it because it is cool. You can only be a successful entrepreneur if you are doing it because you are passionate about it, because you want to do this. This is something that drives you, because it's, we all know that, right? Entrepreneurship is hard. It's very hard, and it's not for everyone. Okay. It's more like, it's your calling, and you know that you have to do it. And it's most part of even successful entrepreneurs, if you read about them, hear about them, their lives are hard. Their lives are very hard. Okay. And they are able to live through all of that only and only because they are extremely passionate about what they're doing. Okay. The coolness part of it wears off very fast. Getting to be a startup founder is a cool thing, but that wears off very fast. The grind of running a startup is very, very difficult. And you can only do it, survive it, thrive in it, if you're passionate about doing what you're doing. So I think that's an important caveat that people also need to evangelize and make everyone understand, that you shouldn't just jump into entrepreneurship just because it is cool. You need to jump into entrepreneurship if you're passionate about what you're trying to do, because you're going to need that passion to help you endure the journey and to help you get to where you want to get to with your entrepreneurship approach. So I think that's how I would want to put it.
Right. So do you have any suggestions or advice for all of the budding founders, new founders, entrepreneurs? Do you have any advice for them, sir?
Yeah, my only advice would be, if you are really sure of what you're doing, stay invested. Keep at it. Okay. Sometimes it takes you a few months to see success. Sometimes it takes you a few years to see success. Okay. And you really, really have to stay committed to your startup and to your goal, because it's not going to be easy. But if you believe in it and you have the right people around you that are believing in it, you have to stay invested in it, which is why the importance of having the right co-founders and the right teams, right? Because it's not a battle you can fight alone. You need a good team with you, which can help you, move forward in that journey. So my only advice would be, again, I wouldn't consider, I mean, everyone's journey is different. Everyone's way of looking at things is different. So there's no standard one advice that anyone can really, put out there. But my view, rather than advice, would be to tell people to really, if you believe in something, stay invested in it, go all in, do not do anything half-hearted, do not do something for the sake of doing it. Go all in, do your best. More often than not, you will get the clarity of doing what you have to do. At some point, if you feel your business isn't working, it's okay. It's okay to exit and do something else. You don't have to really, get so worried about it. But having said that, you only reach that state once you know that you've been all in it, you've given it everything you got, and you persisted with it to the time that you could. That's when you will know what's the right thing to do for you. So shorter version of it is, if you know what you're doing and if you're passionate about what you're doing, stay invested, keep at it. It will eventually work. And at any point in time, if you're very sure of it not working and you're absolutely sure that you've given it your all and it's still not going where you want it to go, then do not be afraid to choose an alternative, to pivot your business or to take an alternative track to progress in your journey. And that's how I would want to put it.
Perfectly said, Sai. I believe that whenever you feel like that you have given all your energy, all your knowledge that you had, and you still feel like that there's a way maybe where you can succeed in some alternative ways, you should always take that path. So, sir, do you think that when a person they start the company, whenever they start whenever they start an organization or startup, so if you will see in the current scenario, there have been a lot of companies which uh, you know they have, I'll say, succeeded or have grown just with just one founder maybe, and none of the co-founders in the team, right? So do you think that's a very smart idea to do, or we should be having multiple co-founders when we start the organization itself? So do you think we should be having co-founders or not in the starting itself?
Well, I think again, it's there's no right or wrong answer here. You know it yourself when you are in it. But my view is it's always good to have either a good co-founder or a good team. That you can bank on, and that team that understands you, and the team that you understand really well, because humans are social animals, right? No business is built individually by anyone. You need people, and it's important to, because there are, like I said, there are going to be good days, there are going to be bad days, there are going to be disastrous days, and to be able to endure that, you always need people around you who can keep motivating you, encouraging you, and also making you realize that you're all in it together, right?
Right.
That feeling of having each other for that kind of a support system that's necessary to endure entrepreneurship is extremely crucial. So I really feel you should have a good co-founder, or you should at least have a good team that's working with you, that helps you, that resonates with your vision, that's equally passionate about doing what you're doing, and is able to be with you in the journey to help everyone grow collectively together. And that's exactly my view on it, because oftentimes what happens is, you never really know from a business standpoint what's going to work or what's not going to work. You
Right.
always have to be on, constantly try out different approaches, see if something's working, build on what's working, weed out what's not working, try and do similar things to what's working, try and tap into a new idea and bring it into your business proposition, and then try and make it work, and so on. So there are so many things that you keep doing. Always what you're trying to do is you're trying to increase your shots on the goal in some sense,
Right.
because you don't know which shot is going to convert. The only thing you can do is you can increase the shots on the goal, because something will eventually add up, and something may
Right.
not add up despite your best efforts. And that process is very demanding, and for you to enjoy that process, for you to do your best in that process, you need to have the right team with you to help you, bounce off ideas, to help you collaborate, to help you see things differently, to help you collectively get to where you want to get to with your idea or your product.
Right, sir. I mean, so when talking about, as we already mentioned and discussed that you have been in this industry for a long time. So, according to you, so what has changed drastically into this industry? Not in terms of, I'll say, technology, because that is something which again is a
Of
changing thing,
course.
but something which has completely changed how the industry is working now. Since and the difference when it used to work at that time when you started your career. So, what is that thing, sir?
I think the industry has become a lot more open and collaborative. Okay, there is a lot of ecosystem thinking. There's a lot of collaborative thinking. Okay, it's no longer companies operating in silos. It's about how can you collaborate, how can you work alongside each other. This whole, even if you look at the SaaS industry, right? It's by design a very collaborative industry. Every SaaS product in a given client ecosystem works alongside many other SaaS products as well. So you have APIs and you have integrations with many other products, but
Right.
everyone is trying to solve a different part of this larger problem based on their core competence and their expertise and the value they are trying to create, right? and and that's really something that has changed over the years, right? This whole incredible collaborative nature of companies and ecosystems, right? Today, Apple and Google, if you look at the biggest of the big players, the best of the breed players in the market, you look at the top 5 companies in the world today, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and Facebook, right? These are the top 5 companies in the world today. And each of these companies need the other companies to exist in the market, right? The top apps on iPhone are all Gmail, YouTube, and Maps, which are Google apps, right? And what would an iPhone be without Gmail or without YouTube or without maps, right? It's not possible. So they're collaborating in some sense, right? You can't imagine Apple without Google. You can't imagine Facebook without Apple, because if you don't have the great iPad or the great phone to try and the great iPhone to access Facebook or Instagram from, you won't really have the adoption of Instagram or Facebook as you have it today, right? There would be no Uber if there's no Google Maps, right? So Uber requires Google Maps for it to exist and function. So the larger point is we're, over the last 10 years, what has significantly evolved is the incredibly collaborative nature of companies, the whole ecosystem thinking, particularly in SaaS and the tech space, but also increasingly in every aspect of the business, where you're looking at more collaborations, working alongside other great products and companies to be able to move the needle on innovation, creativity, etc. It's largely about the sum being greater than the total of parts, right? And that's what has changed in the industry over the years, the way I see it.
Right, sir. So as you said, sir, I mean, there has been this significant change of having this collaborative environment and the industry being very open, right? So but when we talk about it, like things like we companies specifically into different industries, maybe let's take an example of a company which is into health tech sector, or maybe in an energy tech sector. So do you think that people, the way they used to work earlier, let's suppose maybe in sort of being a very disciplined and obedient in terms of maybe timings and all, so I mean, I think that I have heard it from my parents as well, that in earlier those days, people were very, very strict about the timings they go to office, they come from office, so all of these things, they used to be very, very strict. But in the current working environment, we see that it all has become very flexible, right? It has become that more about customer centric, maybe, or maybe more about the employee centric, right? So do you think that, like as I said, keeping the timings, or maybe keeping everything straightforward and disciplined and strict, is much more important than keeping everything flexible? Do you believe in flexible or dynamic things, or you believe in keeping things directly punctual and disciplined? Do you so all of these things?
Well, that's again an interesting topic of conversation. Now, the way I see it is really, it's not about either or. It's about bringing the best of these two worlds together, right? Why would you need to impose a certain discipline in an organization? It's for the greater good of the organization. Okay, like the banks of the river, they are not opposed to the river. That are the banks of the river give definition to the river, right? So they're not disciplining the river. They're actually giving the river the existence of what it is, right? So sometimes what we call as discipline, we often see a lot of millennials talk about being rebellious. They don't want to, which is a nice cool fancy thing to talk about on social networks. But when you think about a system or a structure or an organization, you have to have certain processes and certain constructs which are enabling the creation of innovation, which are enabling the creation of new ideas, which are enabling collaboration, which are enabling growth, right? Now, from one frame of reference, you can call it discipline. From another frame of reference, you can call it an enablement structure, right? Now, how do you execute is really dependent on who you are as an organization. What's your culture? How do you want your people to feel? What are the goals that you want to achieve? What do you want to do as an organization? What do you want to stand for, right? So I think as long as your heart is in the right place as an organization and as a leadership team in an organization, you will always end up doing the right thing. And I think there is merit in considering, like I said, best of both the worlds. You give people the best dynamic environment to work in so that they can do the best work of their lives and they can enjoy doing great work. But at the same time, you have to have the structure. You have to have the structure and the processes in place to ensure that you're able to do things for them which they may not be able to see right now, but they're going to thank you for it later. But at the core of it is doing what's right, and that's really important. And that's where, like I said, you need to have a soul. You need to have the heart in the right place as an organization, and then you'll know what's really right for your people and for your organization in a manner that's a win-win, that works for you, that works for your people, and that works for the industry and your clients and customers as well. And I think that's how I would want to put it.
Right, sir. I would say, sir, all of your opinions are really perfect and fantastic, and it is coming directly from a person who has been in this industry for a long time. So I believe all of the audience who all are watching these episodes of podcast, I believe they would be learning so much from you. And so it was a wonderful time in our episode 3 with podcast. And I believe so you also had a wonderful time answering our question. And that was it. And if you want to share any message to the viewers, you are free to do so.
All right. No, thanks, Aman, for having me. It was great talking to you. And the only thing I'd tell everyone is, life is too short to do something that you're not passionate about doing. So do things that you're passionate about, go all in, create an impact. And that's its own reward, right? Everything else takes care of itself. So I think that's all I would want to say to close this conversation. But it was great catching up with you, Aman, on this podcast.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And I believe the podcast would be available in 2 to 3 days. So everyone seeing a podcast maybe on an Instagram, LinkedIn, they can feel free to visit our YouTube and feel free to follow Dhaval sir as well. I'll be sharing the link on the channel and you can follow him for his perfect advices and wonderful learnings from him. So thank you, sir. Have a nice day. And I hope that we'll see each other again soon.
Sure. Looking forward. Thanks, Aman.
Sure,
Thank
sir.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.